kit for the seminars, you'll be writing me a 3-paragraph summary on what you learned. Don't worry about what you have to come up with to write about because I will let you know. For example, as we go throughout this seminar, I will say, for paragraph number 1, please write this, or please do this. And you'll have a chance to pause the video that you're watching right as you go, or you can wait until the very end of the seminar and then complete your seminar summaries. It's a good idea right now, if you'd like to pause this video, to open Microsoft Word and set your summary page up like so. You want your name and student ID number in the top right-hand corner, and then as the title for your paper, please just center and title it Seminar Summary Number 4. So for each seminar, it will be a different number. That way I know which seminar you've watched when you email it to me later, which I will give you directions at the very end of the seminar on how to submit these summaries. All right, everybody, now that we're ready to begin, let's go ahead and dive right into the seminar. In today's seminar, we're going to talk about self-esteem and self-compassion. We're going to talk about good self-esteem, we're going to talk about bad self-esteem, and we're also going to talk about self-compassion and why it's incredibly important to us. And I hope that this helps all of you in your daily lives, and especially in your degree programs. We're going to discuss just for a moment the differences in self-esteem and self-compassion. Self-esteem, simply put, is feeling good about yourself. Think about what determines our self-esteem. Do you maybe have high self-esteem? And if you do, how did you get that? So we get self-esteem, if you're thinking about that right now, how you got it, by success, social rewards, and attractiveness. Psychology is actually kind of falling out of love with self-esteem because of how we get it, which I just mentioned, again, success, social rewards, and attractiveness. So think about this for a moment. That isn't always a good thing. It all goes back to the self-esteem movement in the school system from about 1982 to 2002, where everyone was a winner. Gold stars and participation awards were given out, and achievements were devalued because parents and educators were fearful of not giving praise. Praise should go beyond accomplishments to include personality traits that make you who you are, such as being a good friend, telling the truth, working hard. The problem with self-esteem isn't that feeling good about yourself is a bad thing. Of course, we want to feel good about ourselves through achievements. The problem is that self-esteem breeds things like success. So you have to win. You have to do something better than someone else. Sometimes that breeds selfishness because we're doing things simply for praise or recognition. And then narcissism. And we do have an uproar of narcissism in our generations now at the moment. Social rewards depend on others. Bullying, prejudice are things that can come out of social rewards because you're always depending on someone else to be better than them. And then attractiveness. So just being above average in general. I'm not talking about looks and, being prettier, more attractive. I'm just talking about attractive as in you are above average to the person next to you. So just to kind of go off of that, what if I said that you're an average student or an average friend? We have to feel special and above average to feel good about ourselves, according to the laws of self-esteem. What's problematic with this? It's impossible for us to feel above average all the time. That's a lot of competition and a lot of pressure, and it breeds a lot of negative things in psychology. Roy Boinstminer, a professor of social psychology at Florida State University, actually found that criminals and drug abusers actually have higher self-esteem than the normal population. Other researchers found that bullies think fairly high of themselves and may even see themselves as superior to their classmates. For many years, psychologists saw self-esteem as a marker for mental health. However, as you see, it can be problematic because of how we get it. So now, what is self-compassion? Where does that come from? Let's talk about that for a moment. So what is self-compassion anyway? This little component wheel at the very bottom of this slide shows the 3 components of self-compassion. Self-kindness, being supportive and gentle to yourself. understanding common humanity, and mindfulness. We're first going to talk about self-kindness, being supportive and gentle to yourself. It's essentially treating yourself the same way you would treat a friend. With self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and care we would give to a good friend. Ask yourself this: do you treat yourself the same way you would treat your best friend? Would you ever tell yourself that you're ugly, but you would never tell your friend that they're ugly? Chances are probably a lot of us are a lot more harsh on ourselves than we are to our friends, and we really should be treating ourselves the same way we would treat a best friend. Self-compassion also focuses on understanding common humanity. We all suffer. Sometimes when something goes bad, we don't feel like we are the only ones this happens to. And we get into kind of ruminating over, why me? Why am I always the one who loses at this game? Why am I always the one to get my heart broken every time? Every time this teacher only picks on me. Our perspective really narrows down and we cut ourselves off from other people. In fact, the thought that we are imperfect and suffer like others is what's connecting with us with other people. I guarantee you are not the only person this has ever happened to in the world. You might feel like it for a moment, but if you really start to practice that this happens to everybody and we're all kind of the same, it will help you with coping. The third component of self-compassion is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to be aware of your thoughts and emotions without judging them. And we'll do a little practice of this in a few moments. Often because we don't like feeling pain, we go right into fix-it mode. But how often do we really pause and comfort ourselves the way we comfort friends? Comfort ourselves through a moment that we are going in pain before we begin to fix it. Or to put it more simply, it allows you to see what's going on in your head without being carried away by it. Think of it like a muscle. You get better at not being carried away by passing emotional moments. You learn to respond rather than react to the stuff that comes up in your life, and your happiness will depend less on unstable and constantly changing circumstances. I want to share something with you all too about myself. Before I learned about self-compassion and started to engage in self-compassion, love, and kindness meditation and exercises, I had very, very high self-esteem. My parents raised me that way. My school system raised me that way. And I'd been rewarded for being better or getting straight A's or winning awards and art shows. And that's something that really became a big part of my life where I started to become very critical, self-critical. If you're wondering whether you could use more self-compassion, if any of these things describe you, if you're a very, very self-critical person, then the answer probably is yes, that this will help you have a better life. If you've ever felt that nothing is ever good enough, if you have an intense fear of failure, your way is always the right way, which is definitely how I felt. I felt like I could do everything myself alone, and it was always the right way. You see things as black or white with no gray, and you ruminate repeatedly over your past mistakes. So you really beat yourself up about the bad grade or something that you messed up on, and it's hard to forgive yourself in that. So if this is you, definitely start practicing some self-compassion and stick in for the rest of this seminar, and I'll give you guys some links for exercises and meditations at the end. If you don't think you're very self-critical, we're going to do a quick little mindful exercise to see what your self-talk is like if you are self-critical, and to see if you kind of treat yourself the way you would treat a friend. So we're going to do a little quick 30-second self-awareness meditation practice. No one really beats you down more than your own mind. Instead of kind of hiding in things we don't like about ourselves, we use self-pity and indulgence, and we make excuses for bad behavior. I really want us to just take this moment to do some mindfulness meditation together. So to begin, I want you to all close your eyes. So I want you to keep your eyes closed until I tell you to open them. I want you to think deeply, and don't say this out loud because you're going to think of some weird things if there's someone around you that you may not want to say out loud. I want you to think about an ugly thought about yourself, and I want you to squeeze your fist. So for example, I am blank. I am not funny, not attractive. I am not interesting. I am a fraud. What am I doing talking to you guys about this stuff? I have no idea what I'm talking about. And for 10 seconds, I want you to sit with your ugly thought. Don't argue it in your head or make excuses or challenge it. Just sit with it. Now I want you to add something in front of that thought. I want you to add the statement, I'm having the thought that I am blank. Now I want you to open your fist and face your palms upward. And I want you to add something in front of the statement again. I notice that I'm having the thought that I am blank. I notice that I'm having the thought that I am not funny or a fraud. I notice that I'm having that thought. Right now you can all open your eyes. So what happens to that thought when you start to add statements in front of it, such as, I'm having the thought that I am blank. I notice that I'm having the thought that I am blank. For some of you and most of you, it should lose some sting. It hurts when you say hurtful things to yourself. But when you're being mindful and you're noticing that you're having that thought, that you aren't actually that thing or you aren't doing that thing, you're thinking about yourself in that way, you're not saying that you're unattractive. Instead of hiding in things we don't like about ourselves that we normally use self-pity, self-indulgent, and make excuses for bad behavior, we make ourselves aware of how we are thinking about ourselves. And that makes us curious to make some action. Did anyone notice that little person in the back of your head that's kind of talking back to you? Maybe if your ugly thought caused you pain or sadness or hurt you, this little person in the back of your head might be back there waving this flag, kind of just pounding it in, ruminating it in, and making it worse. The first time I ever did this exercise, I definitely heard some negative self-talk. That's what that is. And for example, the first time I did this, my ugly thought was that I am afraid of public speaking, and I heard this little person in the back of my head calling me a chicken. And I would never tell my friend that they're chicken for not doing a public speaking opportunity. I would never call them a chicken, I think, for anything. But yet I would call myself that. And I had very negative inside self talk. Pay attention to your self talk. How are you treating yourself internally? Are you comforting yourself? Are you kind to yourself? Are you being a friend to yourself when you do need a friend? These are really important things to consider and look at when you're thinking about doing things like self-compassion meditation. Dr. Kristen Neff also says that you could talk back to that voice. If there's that little self-talk in the back of your head causing you pain, you could say something to that little voice such as, listen, I know you're disappointed, but you're causing me pain. You're causing me suffering. You're causing me anxiety. And then give yourself and your own pep talk. Say something like, I know that you're causing me pain, and next time let's just work on this together to be better. So, an example, you let your nervousness get the best of you, but I know you can do this. Let's take a walk and strategize on how to accept and fulfill the next public speaking obligation. That's a much healthier approach to comforting myself and being kind to myself than calling myself a chicken, because that's not going to accomplish anything except for making myself feel worse. Here's another example of another exercise from Kristen Neff. It just takes what we've done a little bit further. Think of your ugly thought or feeling and feel the way it's making you feel. Say to yourself, this is stress, this is suffering. You're identifying how that thought is actually making you feel. This is causing me pain, this is causing me anxiety. Then say, everyone suffers, because we're going to think about common humanity. That, remember, we are all the same. That's one of the key components of self-compassion. Now put your hands over your heart and feel the warmth of your hands. Then say to yourself, let me accept myself as I am. Everyone feels like this. That is being kind to yourself and supporting yourself. So I'm not going to make you guys try this, but please do pause this right now if you would like to try it. So how else does self-compassion actually help? Self-compassion breeds resilience. Those who have it suffer less and are better able to reach their full potential. So it's all about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you really want to reach your full potential, everything that you can be and achieve actualization, definitely practicing self-compassion can help you get there. And also, people who are compassionate towards themselves are better able to forgive others too. This is the whole reason, guys, I started practicing self-compassion meditation, because I needed to forgive someone for something that really, really hurt me. And that was a whole part of my self-esteem and confidence, like slippery slope of you have good days and you have bad days when you aren't getting that kind of social reward from someone. So if you learn to forgive yourself, you can definitely learn to forgive others more easily, and this is a good route to get there. Another way it can really help you is it can change the way you think about yourself. People who are able to change their plans or their outlook and their best outlook can more easily increase their self-compassion, as well as diminish your level of stress, depression, and anxiety. You're creating the best possible visualization for your best outcome, your best self. Other practices that foster self-compassion and self-awareness are mindfulness, which we've just practiced a little bit, body awareness, yoga, and then self-talk, which we briefly talked about. If you're really interested in meditation and self-compassion, definitely just learning a little bit more about it will help you kind of get onto that route. Loving kindness meditation is often referred to as compassion meditation. It's a simple practice of sitting quietly while directing positive wishes towards yourself and other people. During your loving kindness meditation, you recognize and wish to relieve suffering in others and in yourself. This is very good for forgiveness. It's very, very good for building self-compassion, and kind of it's a better way to get it than self-esteem. And you'll be happier. Studies show that practicing loving kindness meditation for 7 weeks increased feelings such as joy, contentment, hope, and love. Those in turn produced increased satisfaction with life. There's a Buddhist monk, he's a PhD. He has his PhD in neuroscientist biology, and he has been hooked up several times to machines to measure his brain activity of what's going on when he's not meditating, and then when he all of a sudden is prompted to do self-compassion meditation. And the parts of his brain that are just firing and lighting up are just so interesting, because he's really trained his brain over years to use parts of his brain that he normally wouldn't use. You retrain your brain, you retrain the way you think, and therefore you retrain your best outcome. So a lot of you are thinking, cool, that sounds really awesome. I really want to try that. How do I do it? Here is just a very simple infographic on how to get started on self-compassion meditation. You can take a screenshot of this, pause right now and save this for later. And at the very end of our seminar, I'm going to give you 7 guided self-compassion meditations that you can practice at home. So it's very simple. It's not, something that's going to take you years to get started on. It will take you years to improve and get better at it. But just to get started, you just have to be comfortable with your eyes closed and be ready with some phrases to direct towards yourself and others. Here's some example of traditional ones. May I, you be healthy. May I, you be happy. May I or you be filled with ease. And then you're going to say them to yourself for about 4 rounds. Then you're going to direct them towards someone else who you care about for 4 rounds. You can eventually, when you get good at this, direct them towards someone you feel neutral about, someone you're having difficulty with and trying to forgive, or all people everywhere, just all common humanity. So I hope you guys do try the exercises. Like I said, do take a screenshot of this if you're just curious about it, and we'll revisit that at the end of the seminar. So we all know that self-compassion is so wonderful right now because you're not depending on anyone else to get it. It can only come from you. So you can only keep yourself from getting self-compassion. So just to point out a couple more reasons why it's so great to have it. The more self-compassion you have, the more likely you are to be resilient, which we briefly mentioned. If you're going through a breakup or a divorce, you're going to bounce back much faster and have a shortened recovery time. Greater self-compassion also helps you with eating disorders because you have a more positive body image. You feel better about yourself. You love and are kind to yourself. Practicing self-compassion and mindfulness makes you more functional and overall less likely to be mentally ill. It helps you to imagine your best case outcome for your near future, succeed at work, solve problems, stress less, strengthen your relationships, and stay healthy. I really haven't found any negative research about self-compassion meditation or loving kindness meditation. It's a lot of good stuff, as opposed to self-esteem, and I really think it is worthwhile and an idea worth spreading. So without pausing or writing this down, just think quietly to yourself, what are the 3 components to self-compassion? All right, now let's see if everybody got them right. The 3 components of self-compassion are, remember our little component wheel chart that we had? Self-kindness, being supportive and kind to yourself, treating yourself the same way you would treat a friend. Understanding common humanity. All humans are imperfect. All of us make mistakes. Mindfulness, being aware of one's suffering with clarity and without judgment, not getting carried away by emotional moments. So right now I think is a good time for us to work on question number 1 of our seminar summary. Question number 1, I want you to answer this. What did you learn about self-compassion? It could be anything you learned that we've talked about in the beginning of the seminar. So what did you learn about self-compassion? This is a good time to pause and pull up your Word document and type in your first paragraph. Remember that I do want your name in the top right corner, as well as your student ID number, the title of the seminar in the center, and then question number 1, what did you learn about self-compassion? Now that we've all started our seminar summaries, I think it's time for a pep talk.
The world needs to stop being boring. Yeah, you. Boring is easy. Everybody can be boring, but you're gooder than that. Life is not a game, people. Life isn't a cereal either. Well, it is a cereal. And if life is a game, aren't we all on the same team? I mean, really, right? I'm on your team. Be on my team. This is life, people. You got air coming through your nose. You got heartbeat. That means it's time to do something. A poem. 2 roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled. It hurt, man! Really bad. Rocks, thorns, and glass. My pants broke. Wah! Not cool, Robert Frost. But what if there really were 2 paths? I want to be the one that leads to awesome. It's like that dude Journey said, don't stop believing unless you dream stupid. Then you should get a better dream. I think that's how it goes. Get a better dream and keep going. Keep going, and keep going. Will Michael Jordan have quit? Well, he did quit. So he retired. Yeah, that's he retired. But before that, in high school, what if he quit when he didn't make the team? He would have never made Space Jam. And I love Space Jam. What will be your Space Jam? What will you create will make the world awesome? Nothing if you keep sitting there. That's why I'm talking to you today. This is your time. This is my time. It's our time. We can make every day better for each other. If we're all on the same team, let's start acting like it. We got work to do. We can cry about it, or we can dance about it. We were made to be awesome. Let's get out there. I don't know everything. I'm just a kid. But I do know this. It's everybody's duty to give the world a reason to dance. So get to it. You've just been pep talked. Create something that will make the world awesome. Play ball.
Wouldn't it be cool if we listened to kids more? I'm just kind of blown away by the ideas and hearts of children. I believe kids can change the world. I also believe grown-ups can change the world too. It just takes all of us working together, and that's your pep talk for today. We should all be giving ourselves pep talk, having a good inner voice, and this is something you can practice until we do get to the point where we have great self-compassion and we're working on our self-esteem. There are some tips and tricks we can do to kind of fake it until you make it. One of those tips and tricks to fake it until you make it is called power posing. Power posing is just simply demonstrated in the picture on the left by Oprah. If you take her for example, making yourself bigger. So opening your body up to become bigger. And I'll show you a couple different examples in the next slide of some poses that you can try. Things not to do and things that are a sign of powerlessness are things like on the right, where you are putting your hands on your face. You're making your body smaller. You're maybe touching your neck, maybe putting your hand over your mouth, touching your body. These are things you don't want to do for, let's say, you're in the waiting room for a job interview. You don't want to be slouched down. Definitely don't want to have your head in your hands or have your eyes cast down. You want to sit up straight. You may not want to walk into an interview and sit down like Oprah here, for example, but these are things that you can do, let's say, in the bathroom. You can do them at home when you're practicing for a speech, a date, a job interview, a big project, anything where you need a little bit of a confidence boost. Research has shown that by doing these power poses, very simple things to do, they increase your testosterone and they decrease your stress. This makes us more likely to take risk and to feel more confident, to feel better. So that's why it's kind of a cool thing to do maybe before a job interview. They did a couple of research studies to prove this, where they put a group of people into a room and gave them money, and they had them do power poses, and then they had them gamble. And they also did the same thing in a room. They gave them money. They did not have them do power poses, and then they had them gamble. What happened was the people that did power poses gambled more, spent more money, and took higher risk. So this definitely will help you if you need that confidence boost from somewhere. And here are a couple examples of some different power poses you can try. So I want you now to look at these different power poses. There are 5 on the top of this slide, and these are actually the 5 from the study we talked about where they did power posing and then gambled. I want you to pick one of these 5. I'm not going to have you gamble, don't worry. I just want you to pick one, and as you see, I have my students do this in the on-campus seminar. I want you to actually do it. So it can be any of them. You could do the CEO, the Wonder Woman, the man. I want you to pick the one you like, then pause this seminar, and I want you to take a photo of you doing with that power pose and insert it into your seminar summary as question number 2. So you can use your webcam, your photo booth on your MacBook. You can use your phone, whatever you need to do to take the picture, and just go ahead and insert it right into your Word document. Now that we've done seminar question number 2 by posting our photo, I wanted to just share this link with you, and then we'll move on to some other topics. Amy Cuddy also has a TED Talks. If you have not seen it, it's wonderful to watch. Your body language really does shape who you are, and you can tell from looking at someone everything you need to know by body language. There are a lot of professionals that are trained in this. If you watch this, you'll see that there are a lot of instincts that we have with body language. So please watch this by going to tedtalks.com. It's not required to do. This is just to share with you some extra information. Or you can watch it on YouTube by Googling Amy Cuddy, Your Body Language Shapes Who You Are. Here are a few more tips and tricks that you can do without any training whatsoever. Just simply listening to music. Listening to music with high energy helps promote feelings of higher confidence, and also high bass helps promote feelings of power and testosterone. Also learning how to play something. Maybe you already know how to play something. That can lead to great self-esteem. Maybe you've heard of self-affirmations before. If you have not, self-affirmations are statements that you say about yourself. Maybe you can put sticky notes on your mirror at home. Maybe you can list them in a book, or maybe you can read them online. But they're very simply put, they are statements that are meant to boost your confidence during times you are struggling, because they prevent you from focusing on past failures, and they help you visualize successful outcomes. So they will help you visualize your best self. Here's an example of someone doing self-affirmations.
Look, I can be a shark. Now my whole house is great. I can do anything good. I like my school. I like anything. I like my dad. I like my cousins. I like my aunts. I like my Allisons. I like my moms. I like my sisters. I like my dad. I like my cat. I like my hair. I like my haircuts. I like my pajamas. I like my stuff. I like my rooms. I like my whole house. My whole house is great. I can do anything good. Yeah. I can do anything good. Better than anyone. Better than anyone.
Okay, now that we saw it actually being practiced, here's how you actually do it. You can try this at home. There's a bonus if you do it in front of the mirror, just like our little friend here did it. And she was kind of even doing her own tiny little Wonder Woman, if you notice that as well. So practice in front of a mirror. Say things like, I am filled with energy and joy today. I have limitless creative energy. I have all the skills to be wildly successful. My future has never looked brighter. I'm excited about the day. I'm amazing and others see that. And I'm an attractive person. These will help you, and they'll definitely help you, like I said before, in times in need, times that you're struggling and there's something preventing you from focusing on your best self. So let's talk for a moment about our core personalities and how that affects us in our confidence and self-compassion. Talk about building self-esteem in introverts and extroverts. Are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? Maybe you don't know. If you don't know, here are a couple key personality traits of each. Extroverts usually get more energy from being active around other people. So after they leave a meeting, they're excited. Or after they leave a concert or an event, they're very happy and they enjoy that. They're a people person. They love groups. They jump quickly into activities without thinking about them, and they value social rewards. So self-esteem is actually very important to an extrovert because they do value getting that social reward from winning or being better at something. And then on the other hand here, we have introverts. Introverts get energy from dealing with ideas, pictures, memories, reactions that are within. They prefer alone or with one or two people in small groups. They think before acting. They are reflective or maybe perceived as reserved. And they enjoy listening more than actually talking. So my question for you, between extroverts and introverts, who's more confident? So the answer is neither. I wanted to take a moment to address this and kind of debunk this myth. If you've ever seen Mythbusters, we're kind of going to take a moment like that. There's an expectation in our world that to get ahead and get what you want, you've got to go out and be very confident, and you've got to go get it and grab it and take it for yourself. You have to ask for what you want. You've got to put yourself out there, and you've got to stand out in a crowd. This can kind of be an introvert's nightmare. They don't necessarily want to stand out in a crowd. They maybe not want to be there in the crowd. So our society is biased towards the outgoing and the socially adept, and it's easy to feel like you're not as good as your extroverted coworker or friend. The social perception is that introversion means shyness, which it does not, and a lack of confidence, which it is not. Some introversion can be related to social anxiety and fear of being judged. That's a medical diagnosis and condition. That's not a personality, and that's very few people. So, what's your experience with this? Have you been confusing extroversion with confidence? Because if you have, you might want to think about some of your introverted friends, or if you are introverted yourself, think about that and how that really doesn't affect who you are as a person as far as being confident about yourself and feeling good about yourself. You can find a lot of things from within to focus on where you can feel very, very good about yourself. And here are some really great examples of some leaders that we've had in history that are very, very introverted. They've been studied by many psychologists to come up with their personality. And they're very, very outgoing, very outspoken, very, very, almost appearing to be an extrovert, very, very confident. So if you aren't sure if you are extrovert or introvert, and maybe that's something you're interested in, you can take a test called the Myers-Briggs test, which will give you a little bit more information beyond extroversion and introversion. It'll actually give you a score of all the different personality key components. And if you Google that, there are a lot of free versions online for you. All right, so now it is time for question number 3, paragraph number 3 in your seminar summary. I want you to write down and explain 3 things about yourself that makes you confident, makes you have a great sense of self-compassion, you are proud of, makes you different or special in a good and positive way. So for example, maybe you play an instrument and you feel very good and confident about that. Maybe you were a childhood movie star. Maybe you have a special talent. Maybe you can help someone or do something for the world that others can't do. You have something else to give. As we discussed, this does not matter if you're introverted or extroverted to do this activity. This is all about nurturing your self-compassion regardless of your personality traits. So I want you just to really take a moment to really think about this. I want this to be something that makes you feel great, something you could look back on as well to feel very positive about, maybe something you've accomplished. And I want you to list it as your number 3 in your paragraph summary. So you might want to take a moment to pause this and pull up your Word document to enter that in to your paragraph number 3. And in the end, your summary is going to look like this. You're going to have your first question, your picture, and your third paragraph with your 3 different things. And then you're going to email it to me. So you're going to save it, and you're going to email it to success@fullsail.com. So it's success@fullsail.com. My name is Amy Edwards. I hope you guys really enjoyed the seminar. I hope you enjoy the rest of them as well. Very excited to teach you these different concepts, and I just want you to do not only well in your degree programs, but to be happy and healthy and really overall have a more positive life. And I love this quote. I wanted to share this with you. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Remember that. That's definitely a key trigger of mindfulness. Here are also 7 guided self-compassion meditations and 8 exercises that you can try. It's on selfcompassion.org. And if you want to learn more, you can watch this TED Talks on self-compassion by Kristen Neff. She's a PhD that studies this. If you have any questions for me at all, please email me your questions to, again, success@fullsail.com. And I hope you have a wonderful day.